Welcome back to the Break Time University podcast. This is episode 66, and I'm Patrick McMullen. And today we're joined again by Alan Schaefer. Today's podcast episode's about don't always talk in absolutes. And we get into some yacht rock, 70s music, and even a little Steely Dan. So listen in and enjoy. Hey, it's Patrick McMullen, and I am back for our next Break Time U episode. And we are joined again by Alan Schaefer. Alan, rock on. It is great to have you back.
I love that. You know what? This is, in life, you have have tos and you have get tos. My friend, this is a quintessential get to. I have so much fun doing this with you and sharing like you're giving me this platform for my goofiness. I'm the man of 1,000 stories, so I appreciate you having me and putting me in break rooms.
You say goofy, I say Scooby-Doo, Shaggy. That's one of my unique talents. And
Yes.
my grandson, and anybody that follows knows that I love my little grandson and I talk Scooby-Doo to him all day long. So
Who
that's
doesn't?
my little
What's
known
better than
talent.
that? I
I'm
love it.
sorry. It
What's
is.
better than that?
Yeah, Shaggy. And uh, so Alan, if you had, whether it's iTunes, Pandora, XM, what's the station you're listening to right now?
I listen to a lot of yacht rock.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of yacht rock.
Expand on that one. That might be a first for me to hear that.
70s, like a lot of 70s, just kind of chilled 70s music. So
Okay.
that's I listen to a lot of that. I listen to uh, on Spotify, like there's a coffee house station. I also in the morning I listen to classical music while I'm having coffee.
Okay.
Sometimes I listen to like smooth jazz. And then and this last Saturday, I went on a hike, Cowles Mountain here in San Diego, and I listened to the entire Steely Dan Decade record. And then when I was at the beach, I was listening to, as I walked the beach, I listened to Sergeant Pepper's, it's all over the place.
Well, you caught me by surprise there because I wouldn't have expected that, but that is a good thing because you've played all over the globe. You've played some great shows and had some fun, and we've talked about interactions with Steven Tyler and Elton John and Eddie Van Halen. But I
Yeah.
would imagine you have possibly your most memorable show that you say, listen, if I could go back to that, I'd do that show one more time. That would be it. What would that be?
There was a show that we did in Atlanta for a radio station called 99X, and we played with a guy named Rocco DeLuca. And it was one of these where Best Buy was really supporting the band Five Star Iris, which you can check out on Spotify if you're curious and listening. And but Rocco DeLuca was on a record label managed by Kiefer Sutherland, the actor. And it was like a sold out show. It was a big radio thing. It was a place called the Tabernacle, which is this amazing venue in downtown Atlanta. And I'll never forget, I'm walking to the backstage and we've done our thing, and Kiefer Sutherland is walking this way. And he's got his posse and I got my posse, and we stop in the middle. And it's like it almost felt like at the end of a football game when the coaches come out and they're talking and there's people around them. It was kind of one of those things. It was such an interesting moment when I think about it. And he says to me, he's like, "Yeah, I love your music." He's like, "Mad respect," and said that he listened to our music when he was getting his makeup done for when he was doing the show 24. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Like that's bonkers, man. And so I said, I've got a kind of a big favor. And he goes, "What?" I said, "My mom is a huge fan. Can I introduce you to my mother?" And that's when you really figure out who these stars, what they're about. And he said, "Absolutely, take me to her." And if my mother was on this podcast telling the story, she tells what she remembers of that whole exchange was, um, we're in this spot in the Tabernacle, and Kiefer is with his date, beautiful woman, and the way my mother tells the story is she hears Kiefer say to uh, his lady friend, points at my mom and goes, "That's the mom of the singer of Five Star Iris." And I got this great picture. I'll have this. You know what? You know what? Maybe I'll have to send this picture and you can put it on the thing. But I have this great picture of Kiefer Sutherland and the Schaefer Boys. Yeah, and he was so humble and so cool. I know. I keep throwing crazy stories at you. I know.
But see, that's what makes it fun is to hear these. And folks, why Alan and I, when we met, and in 30 minutes, I was sitting at a breakfast and he was talking, and we just had this connection because the stories are then backed up by substance. That's not just, hey, I met a bunch of cool people and turned into just made a whole life up. No, you've taken that whole passion of your music and you actually almost develop, basically the best way, you have developed almost a science to how to work with people and use the power of music to make people better. And
Yeah.
it's no BS. It's cool as
Yeah.
hell, and I love every minute of it because I it's applicable.
Yeah, I
It
appreciate that. Well, the power, it's interesting, the power of music. I never really understood the power of music until I wasn't touring. But the power of music, first of all, the reason that we use, so we take all this science, right? We take data, behavioral science, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and we kind of put it in this cocktail and we serve it up in a music-centric language and nomenclature and experience. And it's our greatest asset. It's also our greatest obstacle because it's really easy to go, oh, kitschy, cute, team building, whatever it is. And really, it's pretty surgical. We use music because music engages the limbic brain where emotion and long-term memory lives. So if you're watching, if I said to you, hey, think of some meaningful life experience that you've had. Actually, why don't you do this right now, Patrick? I want you to
okay.
think about some really meaningful experience that you had that somehow was tied to music. Like it could be a concert, it could be something that was playing at a wedding, whatever it is. And when you get it, I want you to close your eyes
Got it.
and I want you to play the song in your head.
I've got it going.
And my question is, are you right back there?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So music is a time machine. That's the
Mhm.
power of music.
Yeah.
And so that's one piece. So it's the limbic brain, right? It connects the head and the heart. That's why we remember the things in these experiences. It's why it feels so amazing when the lights go down at the concert and everyone in that moment is anticipating together. It is a shared experience. And so what
Right.
we've done at banding is we've really taken kind of the concept of, the power of music, shared experience, right? To engage the limbic brain, which also minimizes the skeptic brain, opens people up in a way that you can't even believe so that we can give them a different kind of message, which is really here's the friction that's happening in your world and here's what you can do about it based on the science. It's kind of like going to the dentist and saying, "Hey doc, I've got a cavity," and they go, "Oh, for this cavity, eat this candy bar." It's so crazy to get, people are like, "What?" But that's really what banding is. It's a lot of fun.
Powerful exercise, and I would encourage you to do that. I have this phrase that I said many times, and I was blessed to have married my daughter and son-in-law, my oldest daughter Katie and my wonderful son-in-law Jared. And I say there's just some things in life you don't need a camera to remember. And that exercise,
Mm.
folks, when you took me through, the song I chose was Wonderful World.
Oh
And
yeah.
in our wonderful the person that married my wife and I at our wedding impromptu sang that song in a
Oh,
Catholic
come on.
church of all
Sweet.
places.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And I can literally, as I close my eyes, I it's like I was just there, and that's 32 years ago.
Yeah.
So I love that exercise, which is something that you do, and so I want to show everybody what you do. You and I chatted about this. We talked about in one of our previous episodes the power of words and that words matter, and when you do a group setting with companies and people you work with, you go through an exercise of
Yeah.
you divide people up. So I'm going to have you do it, and I'm going to let you go right through the whole exercise,
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
people how words matter and
Well,
how everybody
I
thinks
can
different.
simulate the exercise, and so here's the thing, you know, we all know that words matter, and we all, you know, but we're not really, I don't know that we're really taught to communicate in a way that really makes sense. And I say that because so we teach something, I'm going to put this, we teach something at banding called the platinum rule. And for those of you watching, you know, most of you have heard of the golden rule. The golden rule says, I'm going to treat you how I want to be treated. Now think about that. That's a blind spot in the awareness game, but that's what we've all been programmed to believe. So like maybe Patrick, like maybe when I make a mistake, I like to be hit in the face with a brick. That does not mean that when you make a mistake, I should get out the brick for your face. Now,
Mhm.
as silly as that sounds to make the point, which is the whole lot, it's inherently flawed. It is the antithesis of empathy. And at banding, the work that we do is we help people see beyond themselves. And so the platinum rule says, I'm going to treat you how you want to be treated. And think about this. And I say this to the clients that we work with and our partners. They look at me and they're like, I've never heard this platinum rule. I'm like, do you have a happy customer anywhere that you're not treating how they want to be treated? And they're like, of course. I'm like, okay, there it is. So you already know it. But in order to exercise the platinum rule, you really have to know your audience. And I
Mhm.
will tell you this, if I may, a guilty little pleasure, when you actually exercise the platinum rule, you get this. Yeah, you get a
But
you get some RESPCT. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So I digress. And yeah, and this is, by the way, what you're hearing with this is what we do in our virtual sessions for our global virtual sessions, stuff just like this. But what we do is when we're in the room together and we're looking at words matter, um, we divide people into flip charts based on very particular traits, groupings of traits that they have, based on our what we call our collaborative harmony index.
Mhm.
And we have them rewrite lyrics to a Beatles song. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ear and I'll sing you a song. And I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I'll get by with a little help from my friends. Now, every once in a while I'll have someone that will argue with me and go, that's not a Beatles song, that's the song from the Wonder Years. And I'll go, bless your heart. And then I'll go, that's not a Beatles song, that's a Joe Cocker song. And again, I'm going to say, bless your heart. But what's fairly fascinating is what we're doing with that is, and it's so eye-opening because people are putting down this language, and after doing it for so long, I can tell you the people that are going to use we, the people that are going to use I, people that are write something that's so conceptually like doesn't even seem like it's on the same planet, people that are going to do something in very few words and the type of words and the tone. And when you just, everybody steps back and looks at the same, all these people are saying the same thing, and you just see it in the most concrete visual fashion. And people's jaws are on the floor. And usually they're not on the floor for the workplace. I literally had one gentleman say to me, he goes, holy cow, I just realized that I have been doing no favor to my wife or me or our relationship for a very long time because holy cow, I understand the language where she's coming from and I never knew that. And so it's a bit of a it's attention getting for sure.
Well, you what I took out of this just right now, and it's a lesson that I've taught people, and I challenge people to think about this is how many, I'll ask you this question, how many different personality types, how many groups would you have? So if you had a group of 20 people that you were working with, how many groups would you have? Would it be four or five?
Well, it depends on the data in the room. So we've got so we take a look at all the data and we just find groupings. So sometimes we might have 7 or 8 out of 20 that are all going to be at one flip chart because they all have very similar particular traits.
Right.
Um, Only two here, and then we might have, hey, here are these three people, and they have a similar blend of different traits that are different than these people or these people, and it's really, What I'm proud of in terms of what we do is it's not a one size fits all. I mean, you've got these personality assessments out there and they tell you what you already know about yourself, which I don't find to be incredibly valuable. What's valuable is how about something telling you something you don't know? And what you
Yeah.
don't know in these exercises is now that you've said I'm an ENTJ or a I or my spirit animal is a wolf chicken, whatever it is. So what? Like, what do I do with it? And what's fascinating is, and this is super important for everybody listening, we are underestimating the complexity of human beings working with human beings.
Mhm.
Like I'll give you a great example. If can I play a little more music?
Please, you
And
have
so
at it.
so so I'm gonna play some music, and we're just gonna observe each other. I'm only gonna play a few seconds, and we're just gonna observe each other. Here we go.
This way. I love it.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now here's the thing, and there's this whole medley, and when we play this for people, what I'm asking them to do is observe, and I ask three very simple questions. First of all, was everybody moving and grooving to the same in the same way for the songs? And it's an emphatic no, right? Everybody doesn't get on the dance floor for the same reason. We don't feel things the same, right? That's the first piece. The second question I ask is, were these songs the same tempo? And the answer is no.
Mm-mm.
And the third question I ask is, but can we agree that they all have their own unique groove?
Mhm.
And everyone says yes. And what I say then is, welcome to the complexity of human beings interacting with human beings. And oh, by the way, if we go through this exercise later this afternoon, after lunch, after you closed a deal, lost a deal, your kid got kicked out of school, whatever it is, you're going to be different.
Mhm.
We are a box of chocolates as human beings, Forrest Gump style. You never know what you're going to get in a snow globe and a Rubik's Cube that's changing. And we're
Yeah.
not taught how to deal with that complexity. So our entire goal at banding is to make that complexity simple. You can't solve complexity, but you can adjust and not swim upstream. And so when we take a look at language and words matter, that's the difference between you having a harmonious exchange with someone, a contentious exchange. Words matter. The words that I use with you to hold you accountable if you're on my team, I can't use with Sean on our team or Teresa. And again, one size doesn't fit all. That's the platinum rule. And so what we do is we teach how to activate the platinum rule internally and externally.
Well, I've watched many salespeople and leaders absolutely fail, and they're done within 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds because they don't recognize what you just taught there. They do a one size fits all speech, leadership, sales pitch.
Yeah.
It's one way. They think that it's, hey, they don't like it, tough beans. Well, if you always try to do it one way, just think about that exercise you took everybody through. If I think that the way I reacted to walk this way, let's face it, there's a good portion of the people listening to this had never even heard that song. And
Right.
that's the moral of the story is you can't work in this world of absolutes, which is our something I want you to expand upon that
Oh,
you
yes.
talk a lot about based upon what you just described over the last few minutes. So expand upon absolutes and
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, under the guise of words matter, this was probably, and again, for those of you just, joining or catching me for the first time, I was hell on wheels. I earned my former band members. I was pretty hard charging, and banding exists because I was not a very good communicator or leader. And I have, this is probably on a dramatic level, me righting my band wrongs. And one of the things that I did along the way in rewiring my mind was minimizing and eliminating what we call absolutes. And absolutes, those are the words always, never, every time, everything, everybody. And if you really think about it, first of all, just comically speaking, very rarely when an absolute is getting thrown out is it for something favorable that we're happy about. You always No one ever goes, you always do the dishes in the sink, Patrick. You,
Or I'm always bitching that the dishes are in the sink. That's what my
right. So, but the point being, we're not usually throwing them out when we're happy, but also the whole idea that 100% of the time you do something or don't do something is just simply not true.
Mhm.
Period. That is very, very, very hard to debate. Now, there's a few absolutes that I can accept. Someone might say, as an absolute, I love my spouse unconditionally and no matter what, and I always love or whatever. I can get on board with that. But
Yep.
this idea of always, never, every time, like I challenge all of you, just listen for them this week. Uh, it's pervasive, and the amount that we use that is crazy. And just think about this: for those of you who want to speak truth to power and have a different level of influence and command a different audience, nothing is more powerful than the truth. So the second an absolute leaves your mouth, you are not in truth. Think about that.
You just hit something there. So people have to digest that, and I'm going to regress back to our previous episode, and it goes back to ego and
Yeah,
you talking about edging greatness out.
yeah. One of
I
the
think
ways.
that's also as you just talked about there, and then I thought about the last episode, and egos so often misunderstood. People think ego, oh, he's just cocky.
Yeah.
It's word association. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes it's somebody doesn't know that maybe they should have one,
Yeah.
and have confidence. But also, some people need to check it. And the reality is I'm listening to this and going, that's something that all of us could improve on almost immediately. Take 21 days and you want to form a new habit, improve on that one.
Oh yeah. It's difficult, and I find myself catching myself mid-word still at times, and so now I'll say I rarely or I often, but it's also just staying one step ahead of my mind.
And how did you, as we're getting close to the end of this segment, you still, though, I want to bring folks back to is that the first episode we ever did is work shouldn't suck. And
Yeah.
in our last episode, you also talked about this. You always knew what was next because you were willing to take a risk because you bet on yourself. We've talked about
Well,
worrying is a betting against yourself. You
yeah. So
know
you
what's
know what? So
next.
so here's what I would say. I'm and not to correct. I'm not so sure that I always knew what was next. I was just open to what was next.
Okay.
And I had enough confidence in myself that I was either going to make it happen or have the wisdom to move on and not try and make the wrong record. And part of it is tolerance for risk. Part of it is probably a bit opportunistic, you know. But like with tourdates.com, my .com, we didn't sit around and go, hey, we need to do a .com. My brother had an idea and he came to me and I quit my job at Elektra Records. Now, I wouldn't say that that's the smartest thing to do, but it wound up being a smart thing to do,
Mhm.
you know? But
But you
again,
have a
I could have,
tolerance for risk. You
yeah,
have that. But sometimes people tolerance for risk also is they talk about a play on words.
yeah.
I also like to run marathons, and there's a risk in doing that. That you know what, by doing that, I'm also cutting out stuff that's fun in my life because you're gonna go run a marathon. You got to train. It's not something you can just well, I'll run that in 2 weeks unless you're my daughter, who
Wow.
is a super athlete and does that.
Wow.
But you have a tolerance for risk that many people don't, and look what it's done for you.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, and I appreciate that. What's interesting is, I think people that are close to me would tell you I'm constantly mitigating risk. And I'm a student of boundaries, and I like to take the things to the edge. I'm a bit of an adventurer that way, but I also don't get blindly lost in the dream, you know? And
You have
so
a
I think,
reality check. You get hit with that
yeah,
proverbial brick in the face.
I'm like this very ambitious, very optimistic, very idealistic realist. And the other thing is, at this point, I've just, at every turn, people have shown up to help me and to show me what I needed to see at the right time to get to whatever next level of whatever it is. And it's why I give back to the game. It's why, it's why I won't ever turn anyone away that I can help or think through anything or mentor or anything, because it's, you know, I know what I know because people invested in me, like for whatever reason. And so that's, we're all in this together. That's what I love about like this. Like I would have loved to have been in my break room at some point, and I would have loved the opportunity to hear, and maybe not my silliness, but like to hear, you know, um, you know, someone like Christy talking about, communication and presence and all, like, things that you like, where you don't take a class for these things.
Right,
And so
right.
that's really, yeah, so this is cool. I love being a part of this.
Well, this was always our vision is that, I mean, folks, so as we get to the end of this segment, I'm going to kind of expand actually a little about what Alan talks about is my whole world was break room markets. The kiosk that you see right here, that was my rival competitor. And I led and was the founder of a company that was their biggest rival, and now we use them because came down to is I saw opportunity, I saw different things, but I also saw in the break rooms an avenue. You're there every day that I could add value to your life by doing more than just selling you bags and bottles and check out on that kiosk.
Yeah.
And you're there every day, and we got guys like Alan who have wisdom, have experiences that many of us wish we had maybe gone through. But on the other hand, he's going to teach you not to sell yourself short. And that's what Break Time You podcast is all about, is taking someone like Alan who has so many, it's not just stories, it's lessons that can make your life better and do it in the time that you're sitting on your break. And that's what Break Time You is all about. And I'm
Yeah.
blessed, Alan, that you and I have
Love it.
crossed paths. We can continue
Oh
to
yeah.
do that.
And by the way, what's interesting, like for those of you watching, it's really easy to go, well, that guy, sold companies and he's gotten to do the rock star thing. Like I spent a lot of time in a lot of break rooms.
Yeah.
I bagging groceries at Albertsons. I spent, time in the break room, and like just at or we are working in the warehouse. Like I've been in my fair share of break rooms. That is for sure.
Well, this is a break time minute. I'm going to wrap this segment
Oh
up here,
boy.
and
Oh
I'm going
boy. I
to.
know what's
So
coming.
I want you because you know what's coming. You're going to have to improvise here, but I think this one you'll love is because if you want to get a new habit in life, it's over. They say over 21 days. If you really focus in on something, you can do something that will turn turn your actions into habits and it becomes natural. I'm going to encourage folks to focus in on absolutes. And you want a simple way to do it, take out a post-it note, put it on your desk. Put it
Mm,
right next to you. Anytime you catch yourself saying words like always, never, you need to hold yourself accountable, making check mark on your piece of papers because there's people that ahs, ums, yahs, they want to be better speakers. That's how I used to teach them how to fix that. We'll do that here instead of
mm,
no silent pauses and speak better. Do that here, and it's going to improve your relationships, whether it's with your boss, your neighbor, the people you love in life. Take out a piece of paper, put it down, and every day for the next 21 days, I want you to make those check marks and learn from what Alan just talked about. Don't talk in absolutes. Change your life, make it better. And that's the break time minute and the time
woo.
it takes to sit down. So, Alan,
Huh.
can you wing something from that one
um,
or something else?
what are words for when no? I wish I could sing Missing Persons. What are words for when no one listens anymore? Words for. Do you remember the band Missing Persons? Does
Yes, I
that count?
do. I've heard of it. Listen,
can't always get what you want. If you don't use the right words, for crying out loud, always get what you want. And some of you are going to approach, and some of you are going to confront. And if you just think about approaching someone the next time you have some level of friction, you will get what you want. Yeah, you'll get what you want. You give them what they need. You can't always get what you want. Such pressure.
That is pressure. And folks, we've done 4 episodes with Alan. He is, I've said it last time, I say it again, is the ability to just improvise and whip that off is amongst one of the most impressive things I've ever seen.
It's fight or flight.
Yes. And I will tell you, take a step back and ask yourself, again, self-reflection. How does a guy do that? And challenge yourself to be better, just as Alan does that. Think outside the box. Success is not comfortable. And push yourself. And I would imagine, Alan, you're probably going to practice, go, okay, how am I going to come up with the next one?
Oh yeah, I know. I will tell you this. So I was at band practice. I'll leave you with this. I was at band practice, and the band wants to do a song called Mr. Brightside by the Killers. And it's like not an easy song to sing. And I'm like, and they're like, and I'm like, I don't know if I have a lot of time. I got a lot of client work, and that's going to take a whole lot of, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I started yesterday walking along Mission Beach here in San Diego with my headphones on, listening to it over and over and go, I'm going to do this first verse. And I know our next gig is April 15th. And so I'm going to have it comfortable way before then, but also because I want to do it for those guys, because they're my guys.
I mean, when you think about that, folks, again, that's pressure, and success is never comfortable. And so we're going to have some more segments, and I do want to dig more into, you just talked about approaching versus confronting. So folks, if you're looking what's going to come next from Alan, that is going to be in the next episode that we have him on. But ahead of that, folks, if you want to reach Alan, here's how you do it. Alan, tell them how they can get in touch.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, please. Just Alan Schaefer, SCHAEFER. You can find us at bandingpeopletogether.com, or my email, alan@bandingpt.com. And also, I'm Alan J. Schaefer on Instagram. And I'm trying to get better at Instagram.
And he's on YouTube as well. In the last segment that we aired, that actually has been over my shoulder here, it's also included in there. You can find him on YouTube. You can find his performance where he's saying the national anthem at a NASCAR event. You can find him everywhere. So Alan, great pleasure to have you again here on the Breakthrough Podcast.
All right. Rock on.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Check out all of our episodes by visiting breaktimeu.com.